Babylon 5 Series Timeline. Following the events of the pilot episode, Sinclair begins to suspect that someone erased 24 hours of his memory from the final moments of the Earth-Minbari War. The only way that this could happen is if he were removed from his ship. He now begins the process of trying to find out if this indeed took place. If so, who's responsible? But he's not the only person following this trail. A secret group on Earth, a government agency, also suspects something happened, specifically that Sinclair is a traitor who somehow sold out Earth. Their agents will work hard to either break through the mental block, if one really exists, or in some other way find out what happened on the line, which is this. Sinclair's ship was taken aboard the Minbari cruiser he was attempting to ram. He was taken prisoner along with other Earth Alliance, EA, pilots. This was the main battle cruiser, on which were almost all of the ruling Grey Council. They had come to oversee the final stages of the war, and the coming occupation and rule of Earth, or its destruction, should Earth choose not to surrender. One member of the Grey Council had a revelation, that one of the captured pilots was more than he seemed, that an ancient prophecy concerning the very survival of the Minbari race was coming into fruition. The Minbari are a dying race. Their population is decreasing. Their cities are crumbling. Each generation their children are born weaker, more fragile, all as was prophesied. But one outsider was foretold as being able to save the Minbari, give it a new birth. At least, that is one interpretation of the prophecy. Another reading of the same text leads others to believe that this outsider could cause the destruction of the Minbari race. The Grey Council members insist that the outsider in question is Sinclair. He must be released and allowed to go on his way, to find his destiny. To do that, the Minbari must surrender, allowing Earth's future history to go unimpeded. The military leaders strongly disagreed, and there was a falling out between them, capped by the suicide of the leader of the military caste, and the desertion of a small but dedicated group of his followers, one of whom was responsible for the attack on B5 and Sinclair in the pilot movie. In order to avoid interfering with his destiny, the Grey Council wiped Sinclair's memory of all of this, put him back in his ship, and surrendered. His progress since then has been monitored from afar by the Minbari and their agents. Meanwhile, the Earth Alliance, almost obliterated in the course of the war, began the Babylon Project as a means of preventing future wars. Babylons 1, 2, and 3 were sabotaged and destroyed during construction, each time by a different group. Babylon 4 vanished mysteriously. When Babylon 5 was finally completed, the search was begun for someone to run the place. The Minbari, as participants in the last war, were first to sign on to the station as co-sponsors. Their condition for participation? Approval over who was hired to run it. They eliminated one name after another, starting with ambassadors and generals, and working their way further and further down the ranks until finally getting to the name of a commander who had distinguished himself during the war, but who since then had largely dropped from sight. Commander Jeffrey Sinclair. This was the name they finally selected. The Minbari want Sinclair where they can keep an eye on him. They also feel that this role will be conducive to his achieving his destiny. But there are still factors within the Minbari government who don't entirely agree with Sinclair's possible role. If the Grey Council are right, then yes, he could be the one who helps their race find renewal. But if they're wrong, he could be the one to cause their own personal Ragnarok. For that reason, they selected Delenn as ambassador to Babylon 5. His mission is to help Sinclair if he goes in one direction, to kill him if he goes in another direction. The new birth of the Minbari race and the dawn of the third age of mankind turns out to be a very literal one, a melding of the human and Minbari races through a child conceived by Delenn and Sinclair. This will be facilitated by Delenn undergoing a series of genetic manipulations designed to make her more human and able to mate with Sinclair. The Great Council believes that their offspring will unify the human and Minbari races and lead both into a new golden age. This change takes place as a first-season cliffhanger. This is a troubling development to many of the Minbari. As a race, they put a premium on their own version of ethnic purity. This will be seen by many of them as the ultimate act of betrayal. But other forces are at work at the same time. One such force leads to the assassination of the Earth Alliance president, who is replaced by someone less sympathetic to B5's cause. Londo misses the grand days of empire that characterized the Centauri Republic. He'd give anything to restore that. He also sees the Narns as a real threat. He knows what his own people did to them at one time, and it's not hard to guess what they'd like to do to the Centauri in return, or any other group that got in their way. And G'Kar's goal is to keep everyone at each other's throats. His worst-case scenario is to see others getting together to form a power that could endanger his world again. Londo finds his opportunity in the gradual introduction of a new race, which we will tentatively call the Shadow Men. Name will change later. They will slowly make themselves known in the series, though we won't actually see them for a long time. They save Londo's neck at one point, bailing him out of a crisis and making him look good at home. They gradually draw him to their side, offering in exchange for his cooperation the prospect of restored glory for beloved empire, and a grand position for himself within the empire. At the end of the second season, beginning of the third, we discover the secret of the Vorlons when Sinclair's life is endangered during a fight in the Central Core shuttle. He's kicked out of the shuttle and begins falling, slowly at first, but he gains speed as he moves away from the center, toward real gravity. There's no time for anyone to get a pack and rescue him. Delenn, the only other person up until now to know what a Vorlon is, as hinted at by the nod to Kosh in the reception party in the pilot, suggests that if Kosh is going to do something, it should be now. Aside, the arrival of a Vorlon at Babylon 5 was further proof to the Great Council that they were right. They once had dealings with the Vorlons, but fell from grace, as it were, and the restoration of that connection is something greatly to be desired. At that moment, everyone else in the garden sees something remarkable, and what each sees is different. To our eyes, and those of Sinclair, what rises from the garden to catch him looks like an angel. Not a stereotypical angel, though. It must convey a genuine sense of alienness. Eyes that are twice as large as they should be, higher up on the forehead than should be the case, bronze skin, wings that have a slightly menacing look to them. But everyone else in the garden doesn't see what we or Sinclair see. They see a different figure saving Sinclair. In each case, though, it is a religious figure from their own world, their own culture. We will see each of these variations from their individual point of view. The place is abuzz thereafter. B5 becomes a mecca for pilgrims. Only a few know that it is Kosh who made this appearance. All anyone else knows is that the station had a visitation by their own particular sub-deity. Only one person does not share this moment of sublime revelation: Londo. He sits at the bar, very much alone. Drink in hand, he shakes his head. I saw nothing. I saw nothing. He seems almost broken-hearted not to have seen what the others saw, felt what they felt. Though Sinclair, Delenn, and a few others finally know what Kosh is, that revelation isn't quite as simple as first seems. The Vorlons are not supernatural entities. They are living, breathing creatures with a propensity for mucking about in other species' worlds. They have an attitude of, we know best, and have been to various extents the puppet masters pulling strings here and there for millennia, visiting worlds, creating what they consider to be the right context for civilizations to grow and prosper. Sort of interstellar nuds. They are, in short, not necessarily the good guys. Appearances can be deceptive. What someone else wants for your life may not be what you want, or what is necessarily correct. This vision, and the upswing in visits by fanatics, some of whom are potentially dangerous, further draws the eye of Earth Force officials already suspicious of Sinclair. This point marks an escalation in the storyline. Things begin to move faster. We discover, over the first few seasons, that the Psi Corps is not the benign organization it seemed at first. They are the ones who pull the strings that move the government. They know all the secrets, have much of the power, and they're trying to consolidate that. Meanwhile, the Shadow Men intensify their recruitment. They offer Londo something he can't resist, something that will make his career. They will make the Narn homeworld a gift to Centauri Republic. They will hand the Centauri the entire Narn Empire on a silver platter. All they ask of Londo is to be their spokesman and to act on their behalf, while they continue to operate from the shadows. Londo agrees, and shortly, a massive fleet appears out of nowhere near the Narn homeworld. Before anyone can respond, the attack is on. The homeworld is decimated, its fleets destroyed. The planet is rendered totally helpless for a second wave of Centauri ships, which makes the rubble bounce a little with their own attack, and then take over the place. All the Narns know is that a fleet of black ships came out of nowhere, and that was the end for them. This is the worst possible news for G'Kar, who comes within an inch of killing Londo before being separated by station security. He insists that despite the Centauri invasion, he still represents his people, and must be allowed to speak for them in exile. Londo protests, arguing that the Narn homeworld is now a Centauri protectorate. He insists that the Centauri came in at the request of Narn moderates, who feared that their leaders were planning a massive war against all of the other governments. G'Kar is allowed to remain on Babylon 5 as ambassador without portfolio. He hopes to use his position to rally support for his people, but their violent ways tend to preclude the possibility of anyone coming to their assistance now. They've burned too many bridges. For the latter half of the third season, and the first part of the fourth, G'Kar returns to the Narn homeworld to join the underground resistance and fight for his world. Meanwhile, Londo's position and power is on the rise. He is surrounded by flunkies and plenipotentiaries who cater to his whims as he plans the moment when he can return to Centauri Prime as its leader. It's during this same time, the third, fourth season bridges, that Delenn and Sinclair begin to come together. He is nearly destroyed when his lover, Catherine, who we will introduce in Season 1, is mind-raped and all memory of their relationship is wiped out. The only way he can restore her memory is to do the same thing to her all over again, put her through what is essentially a mind rape, and he can't bring himself to do that. It's a very vulnerable moment for him, and it's now when Delenn makes her move. They begin to come together. By the end of Season 4, they are lovers, and Delenn is pregnant with their child. Also, during the Season 3-4 bridge, Garibaldi will begin to slip back into his drinking problem. It will cause him to throw down his badge and resign as Chief of Babylon 5 Security for most of Season 4, coming back only at the very end of that season, when he is most needed. In the intervening period, he will be a mercenary for hire operating out of the B5 Bazaar. A quick aside. In a Season 1 story, the Babylon 5 sensors will pick up a disturbance some distance away from the station, deep in space. Distress calls, scrambled by static, quickly follow. When they investigate and find that Babylon 4 has reappeared as suddenly and mysteriously as it vanished. It seems to have jumped forward in time. It's phasing in and out of existence, caught between here and its eventual destination, wherever and whenever that is. Sinclair and the rest hurry aboard to try and evacuate the people who were still on board when it originally vanished. During this time, they keep seeing an apparition, a man in a life suit trying to signal to them. Who it is, we can't tell, because his face and head are covered with a breather unit, and because he keeps phasing in and out of view. They can't quite communicate with him. They barely manage to evacuate everyone before Babylon 4 finally phases out of existence completely, continuing on its journey to the future. At that moment, we, the viewer, see a shot inside the station as the mysterious figure removes his breather unit, and we see that it is Sinclair, older, his hair white in places, a scar running the length of his face. He is in despair. "I tried to tell them, to warn them," he says, "but it happened just the way I remembered it. Just the way I remembered it." Then a woman's hand falls on his shoulder, and we hear her say, "It's time. We have to go." And with that, Babylon 4 vanishes again, continuing on its way. The Shadow Men are revealed physically in Season 4 to be dark, demonic-looking things. But once again, appearances may be deceiving. They have fought for millennia against the influence of the Vorlons, fought to keep worlds free of their meddling. At least, that's their line, and we'll gradually discover that it's true, but only as far as it goes. They have their own agenda, one that includes ruling everything in sight. It's the line about those who would save us from communism also being quick to save us from democracy and for fascism. All of which comes to a head in Season 5, with the return of G'Kar, who reveals Londo's complicity and the Shadow Men intervention. At the same time, the Minbari military caste, growing ever more worried about the way this is going, stage a coup and take control from the Grey Council. They order the exile of all council members, the death of Sinclair and Delenn, and a resumption of hostilities against Earth. Londo assumes control of Babylon 5's sector of space in the name of the Centauri Republic. Earth contests this claim, and we break off relations with the Centauri. Shortly thereafter, a Vorlon ship, massive, hundreds of miles long, containing a large segment of their population, is destroyed by the Shadow Men with Londo's help, though without his knowledge that it would result in the death of hundreds of thousands of innocents. Earth is blamed. Season 5 ends with an assault on and the destruction of Babylon 5 by the Minbari. Sinclair and Delenn manage to escape with their newborn child as the station explodes behind them. They are now wanted by everyone in the galaxy, it would seem. By Earth, which has been given information leading them to believe that he is a traitor. By the ruling Minbari warrior caste, who want to eliminate what they believe is a threat to their own race. To some extent by Londo and the Centauri, because Sinclair knows, or at least suspects, who was truly responsible for the hundreds of thousands of Vorlon deaths, and by the Vorlons for presumably being one of those involved in the conspiracy. This ends the story of Babylon 5. Should the series prove successful, it would be followed by a spin-off series, Babylon Prime. In brief, Sinclair, Delenn, their infant, Garibaldi, and a Narn, a friend or relative of G'Kar's who has come to help them. After all, the Narn have no one else left to turn to, and Sinclair tried to do what he could in the past for them, make their way to a meeting with the Grey Council, now in exile. Sinclair et al. Have no place to go. No home, no resources, nothing. The Grey Council is infuriatingly unconcerned. All of this is in the prophecy, if you know where to look and how to interpret it. Sinclair's line is that it would have been a lot easier if they'd known this beforehand. But like all scriptures, they can only be correctly interpreted after it's all taken place. What is required now is a base of operations, a beacon of hope. War is raging on all sides. This must be a place where those who want to create peace can come together. They are able to pull Babylon 4 forward in time, and this will be their base of operations, because B4 was different than B5 in one respect. It had the capacity for movement. It is also a starship. Sinclair and Delenn supervised the attempt. They managed to get onto Babylon 4 and sound an alert, hoping to get everyone off the station. Before everyone can evacuate, however, the time field, which is terribly unstable, rips them forward. They manage to stop the process briefly, long enough for the rest to get off the station. We now see the original Babylon 4 appearance from the other side, as our present Sinclair tries to warn his past version of what is to come. again without success. There are other time distortions taking place. This is not something men were meant to do. Sinclair is aging, quickly, as is Delenn. They managed to counter most of the effects, though it has shaved years off their lives, and finally return to their own time with Babylon 4 intact, now named Babylon Prime. They take Babylon Prime on a journey to clear Sinclair's name and provide a place for those trying to make peace in a warring galaxy. Constantly on the run from hunters and military assault teams, Babylon Prime is their refuge, their sanctuary, and when required, their warship. At one point, early in their travels, they run across Londo, who is a puppet leader of the Centauri Republic, linked to a creature that reports his every action to the Shadow Men. Under its supervision, he must turn them in, but rebels at a terrible personal cost to help them escape. He deeply regrets all that has happened and hopes in some way to make up for it. Along the way, they discover one other side effect of their attempt to bring Babylon 4 into the present. The son of Delenn and Sinclair is aging quickly. They are gradually able to stop the aging process, but by then the son is nearly a grown man. They are able to cyberlink into him all of the information a man would need, but the emotional development is not there. He is as innocent as a child would be. Soon the son becomes a revered symbol, a religious symbol. To others, focus of the prophecy. The boy band whose birth signals a time when various species would come together, making a new golden age. Consequently, the son is prey to frequent assassination attempts. Along the line, the son continues to grow and learn and become something greater than human. The story of Babylon Prime ends with the formation of new alliances and a final great war in which Babylon 4 is a prime player. The Shadow Men are finally conquered. The Minbari are defeated by Earth, which clears Sinclair's name. Delenn takes her leave to rejoin the Grey Council, departing from Sinclair's side, possibly forever. Their son takes his place as head of a new alliance, promising peace for the first time. He is able to command political and religious leaders in a consortium of power. Sinclair, at this stage of his life, finally retires from the chase, from the long battle. His last scene, the last in the story of Babylon Prime, is as he is left, alone, as he requested, on a green and quiet world, otherwise uninhabited, sitting beside the shore, fishing.